So here we are. Rikkert Engels is a founder and director of Xillio. He started the company in 2004 and led the company to become an international organization with over 40 employees. Xillio has developed a powerful content integration platform as a service for content integration projects. Gartner awarded it Cool Vendor in 2017. With this technology and its content migration services, Xillio helps organizations worldwide to free their content and get the most value out of it, regardless of where it resides. We help enterprises working in the localization and translation industry to solve the connectivity and automation challenges they are facing, Rikkert said. Hello, Rikkert. Are you with us?
Yes, I'm here. Very pleased to be here.
You're welcome. How's it going?
Good, very good. Very interesting so far. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, so you're also checking these messages in chat, and the previous presenter was so good in timing, so you have several minutes extra.
Perfect.
Cool. So are you ready to share the screen and start the presentation?
Yes, I am ready.
Okay, cool. So just a reminder to the attendees, guys, ask your questions in this QA tab and join our Slack workspace. So Rikkert, giving the mic to you.
Thank you very much. I like an interactive kind of. I always like the interactiveness of a webinar. So if there are any questions, please fire them off, and I will try to include them during the presentation. So you don't need to wait with all the questions until the end. They can also come during the presentation itself.
Are you allowing me to interrupt you?
Yes, if you think there's a really good question which is related to the topic that I'm talking about, absolutely do though. Yeah.
I will do my best.
Okay, perfect. So we are relatively new to the localization industry. So let me give you a little bit of background where Xillio comes from and what our role is in the localization industry. We started in 2004, 16 years ago, as a migration services company. So we did primarily migrations into Tridion, migrations into Adobe, migrations into Sitecore, etc. Then and we used basically our own software to do that, but we only used it as a services engagement. So we never really sold software; we just provided migration services. Now, then in 2010, we started with kind of the partner program, and we had partners like Capgemini use our software to do their migrations, and which of course widened the spread a lot. Then in 2017, we saw that the ability for enterprises to migrate everything to, let's say, SharePoint, or migrate everything to Adobe, or migrate everything to Sitecore was nearly impossible. And from a program point of view, from a technical point of view, from a business point of view, it is incredibly complicated with so many content sources around and so many different use cases to migrate everything to a single platform. So we started with the development of our Unified Content API. And basically what the Unified Content API is, it's an interoperability platform between content management systems, which would allow enterprises to migrate what they want and to leave behind what they do not want to migrate. So let's say you have a very specific site in WordPress, but you are trying to consolidate everything into Adobe. Then it might be smarter to leave that single website in WordPress behind, but that you still use some of the publication and the analytics, etc., of the Adobe platform. So that was the initial goal of the development of the Unified Content API. Now then, Gartner thought it was very cool, so they awarded us Cool Vendor in 2017, and we started to offer the software to other software vendors, so that they could integrate our interoperability platform in their offering. And one of the first we approached was SDL, but I actually did not approach SDL. I reached out to Tridion. And because I thought that this content interoperability software as part of the Tridion product would be a really good use case. And Tridion said, thank you very much, that sounds very interesting, but we're not going to use it for Tridion yet. Spoiler alert, now they actually also do. And so now it's also used in Tridion. but we are going to use it for translations. And I said, okay, that's fine. And so they used it for translations because at the end of the day, it's all about connectors basically, and the ability to do certain things in those connectors. We didn't really look into the localization industry a lot more, but then in 2018 we did a deeper look into the localization industry, and we found that there's a huge opportunity for an integration platform. Basically, what we saw was there was a lot of, let's say, custom built connectors, a lot of, let's say, old technology. So we decided to offer our connector platform more for the localization industry, and we partnered up with Amplexor, Capital, Lilt, etc. But still, it was a technical partnership where these relatively large LSPs with their own technology used our connector platform under the hood to offer their connectors. And then in late 2019, we released the Localization Hub, because the Localization Hub has kind of the main difference between the underlying connectors and the Localization Hub is that the Localization Hub doesn't require technical expertise. And it's really a specific translation middleware that allows you to send content from any content management system to any translation provider, whether that machine translation, whether that is terminology management, whether that's a TMS, or whether that is directly to an LSP. So the Localization Hub is basically the middleware on top of that connector platform. And right now, we released 2 days ago, actually, it's very exciting news. We released a market space, and with the marketplace, we really want to provide an ecosystem approach so that any translation technology can reuse all our connectors, and the integrated technologies also become interoperable with each other. So that's a very cool, new, exciting, exciting initiative. And I'm very pleased to inform the audience here about it. And I welcome you to check it out. Now, let's go further on what the modern translation, and then a little bit more about the self-promotion. So the clients that we serve, we are based in the Netherlands, but we've always served a lot of international clients because of our specific migration expertise. So there are big clients like Moody's in the States and Coles and the Financial Conduct Authority, and but also smaller clients, of course, where there's not such a so it doesn't need to be that complicated. But the primary but most clients of ours have a relatively complicated content landscape and really profit from the fact that they can automate certain things. Now let's get back to the presentation at hand. My statement is we live in an ecosystem economy. But if we and as I still consider myself an outsider, I still consider myself more from the digital marketing world than from the translation world, because of course we're in the digital marketing for 16 years. We still do those migrations, and we're only in the translation world for about 3 years. I want to take you on a little bit of a journey. What happened in the digital marketing industry from a software point of view? Now, from 1990 to 2010, it was all enterprise suites. It was all Oracle, IBM, and basically it was enterprise suites, relationship sales. The slogan, of course, was nobody gets fired for hiring IBM, and that is how sales was done. Yeah? So it was basically give me a big check and I solve all your problems. Then in 2010, with the rise of the internet, it was much more important that things became open, so it became platforms. And sales was mostly driven by solution engineers. So you needed to do a pilot, and you needed to show that your solution could be integrated into the architecture of the enterprise. Then in 2015, with the rise of the cloud, it really became API first. It really became a developer sales where developers were trying the product, and it was of course still the business that was deciding, but the developer had the right to say no. So it really became a developer product because, of course, in the marketing world, everything needed to be integrated with each other. And if a developer could not integrate it, if it was not API first, it was kind of pointless. And the rise of the API has led to the existence of ecosystems. Right now, we're in the age of ecosystem sales. So My point is here that in the localization industry, nearly every event, the rise of machine translation is the predominant factor to actually talk about. And what I'm saying is machine translation is just an acceleration of the existing process. It's the same process, just done faster. Of course, a lot faster and has massive impact, but in fact, it's the same process. What really is changing and will change the localization industry is cloud, because cloud favors API first and open, and cloud triggered the start and possibility of ecosystems, and that changes business models, and that has a much bigger impact, much bigger impact. Now, if I then look back at the translation ecosystem, then I think we can all agree that translation is still mainly driven by relationship sales. And as a result of the relationship sales driven model, it is also offering enterprise suites. If you look at it, and the problem is then, and the following problem or problem kind of, it looks, of course, it all depends on your point of view. But because the top 1 till 5 in the world all offer enterprise suites, they all offer everything. It's all, in my view, not the best technology, because of course, if you offer everything, it can never be really good. But it is seen as the road to success. So the top 6 till 30 are following that path. So in essence, the translation technology is still in 1990 to 2010. It still has the roads to go to platforms, to API first, to ecosystems. And I think that has to change. That has to change, because there are more things happening in the world. If you take a system like SharePoint, now I have done migrations, or we have done migrations for the last 15 years. And so we know all these content management systems inside out. I can tell you that Office 365 that everybody is using has absolutely not a single line of code, or maybe a little bit of line, but hardly anything to do in the core architecture compared to SharePoint 2013. Nothing. SharePoint 2013 is an evolution from SharePoint 10, from SharePoint 2010, is an evolution from SharePoint 2007, is an evolution of SharePoint 2003, is an evolution of Microsoft Content Management Server 2002. It's all an evolution built on the same code base. Office 365 is rebuilt from scratch. What I'm saying is here is that if you want to build an API first cloud solution, all top enterprise application vendors have rebuilt their application framework, or their application, their products from the ground up. And that is why it is capable to deal with an API first ecosystem. And that is why, because it's made for the cloud. Now, I don't want to judge the current translation technology too much, but putting 1995 technology on someone else's hardware and call it cloud is not what is meant with cloud. It is really just old technology with a little bit of shiny features on top of it, deployed on someone else's hardware. You can approach it through the cloud, but it is not API first. It is still, so all the top 90% of the top 10 enterprise application vendors have rebuilt their technology stack from scratch. So this is the biggest difficulty that the incumbent technology players have, and where the new players have a huge advantage. Because new players, of course, by default, have used the latest technology to build their application. And we do not have to worry about old clients, etc., that we still need to support them. So it is incredibly difficult, but there's such a different way of building products now than it was in the past, that it has a massive impact. That's why they started all 8 to 9 years ago with the rebuild of their application framework. Now, there's a second.
Sorry for interrupting you. I believe there are 2 good questions to answer at the moment. The question from Raul. Hi, Rikkert. Can you please explain the application of your product services for us in simple words? We usually receive requests from customers to translate an app, WordPress, e-commerce platform in a number of languages. with your technology, can we easily do it?
We are focused on content management systems. So GitHub, GitLab, e-commerce systems like Magento, CMS systems like Sitecore and Adobe, file management systems like Nuxeo and SharePoint. That is our forte. We could do software as well, but it is not the best for that.
Okay, good. And there is also a question from Enzo. Can you develop the concept of ecosystem sale?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Can you develop the concept of ecosystem sale?
Yes, that's what we're trying to do. Yeah, I will come back to what an ecosystem actually is in I think 3 or 4 slides.
Great. Okay, so let's move forward.
So why is API first so important? Because without API first, things are not interoperable and information cannot be exchanged. And I was at a Gartner conference in November in 2019, so a couple of months ago, and there were 7,000 CIOs in the room. And Gartner told these 7,000 CIOs, reject any non-API first solution, no matter the price. He said, you have to simply renewing software, which is not API first, hit you in the face. So it might take a little bit of extra money now. It might be painful to say goodbye to your old buddies, but you must not renew non-API first technology. Now, I think the localization industry is quite lucky that it hasn't reached board level approval yet. But of course, this board level imperative can also go down in the organization. So it is incredibly important to have API first technology. It is not something that is simply assessed by just a technology organization. No, it is really incredibly important. I cannot stress it enough and enough. The Gartner, of course, as you know, is the CEO is the CEO whisperer. So so these people listen to what Gartner has to say there. Now, if you take these trends and you look at what the current translation technology landscape looks in this is of course not for all translation technology. Of course, there's also a lot of new ones, but I'm talking kind of in general. In general, there are kind of 2 ways to solve automation within the localization industry at the moment. You either get a spaghetti solution with all kind of like custom integrations between each other. So you kind of glue the solution together and everything is kind of custom. Now, from 2018 to 2020, we sold connectors as an OEM offering to the language industry. So I have had the privilege of having an under the hood look in almost like, I think 40 LSPs. I can tell you, it is spaghetti. It's a custom spaghetti. So this is one piece of the solution, or the other alternative solution is a vendor lock-in. So you buy everything from a top layer, and then of course it might be automated, but you're completely locked in and you cannot really leave or adjust. It's just like, this is the box and you need to deal with that box. It might be more automated than the spaghetti, but of course it comes at a price, and the price is that you're no longer flexible and that you're dependent at the mercy of the large provider. Now, what is modern API-powered digital ecosystem? What is really an ecosystem? And I think this was actually 3 slides. So a modern API-powered digital ecosystem has 3 characteristics, 3 main characteristics. It is the main one is it is easy to work with. So for developers from any party, they can integrate with your solution very easily. Good documentation, self-service, easy to discover, etc. So it's very easy for a developer to work with. The second part, which is also incredibly important, it offers new business channels for all providers. So if you have a translation, if you have an ecosystem in the translation world, the actual new business channels might not be that obvious, but any ecosystem creates new business channels. And I actually see it in front of our eyes, because we launched the marketplace, but we had a soft launch already a couple of months earlier, where we integrated already a couple of translation technologies, and new opportunities arise where in context review is combined with a CAD tool, etc. So there are new business opportunities where you modernize the whole technology stack. So as part of a modern cloud ecosystem, the second main characteristics is it offers new business channels for every party in the ecosystem. And the third value equation, what is essential about an ecosystem, is that it gives access to unique data and content. Because by combining different data sources, there will be new insights for the end user, which is of course the enterprise client, and more access to unique data, more customers, etc. So it basically triggers new insights and new automation because of that API-powered ecosystem. So the three characteristics, that's how the sales is built. Easy to work with for a developer, new business channels for all providers, and new and unique insights for the enterprise client. Now, if I then go back to the situation, or actually go back to the topic of the discussion, which is like a modern translation pipeline starts at the end user. This is another observation from us that I see actually time and time again. If we sell a migration, we always talk directly to the digital marketeer or we talk to the IT department. If a translation is sold, even though the end user is the marketeer, in 99% of the time, it is actually the LSP selling to the localization department. And if it's not the localization department, it's global procurement. So how it works in kind of reality is that the marketeer comes up with their requirements. There's an RFP, and the RFP goes from the localization department to several translation providers, and the translation providers are then offering that, are then basically answering the RFI and hoping to win. Now, and with that relationship sales driven model, or with a price sensitive driven sales because of also because of the global procurement, the marketeer is actually never really included in any discussion. So automation is more like a tick box to win, and instead of that, it is used as a key enabler to drive the translation process. Now, and that has resulted, because of the ignorance of the marketeer, that has resulted that kind of the best case scenario for a marketeer is that he or she has to do 10 clicks to upload content for translation. So the common best use case is kind of a plugin within the CMS, and then within the plugin, which is usually very clumsy, he or she can do like 10 clicks, and then the content ends up at the localization department forwards it to the LSP, etc., etc. So then the process actually starts. That's the best use. That's the best case. Best case is 10 clicks. And very often, there's actually not even a plugin, and content needs to be uploaded into a portal, or it needs to be sent by email. I once spoke to a client, to a localization department, and I asked him if there was any need for automation, and he said, "No, we have everything automated." I said, "Can you be more specific?" And he said, like, yeah, and I mean, I just receive the content, and then I pass the content to my LSP, or I pass my content to my internal LSP, and once the content is translated, I publish it back into the portal, and the end client can actually download it there. I said, oh, but how about the automation for the end user? How do you receive the content? No, the end user uploads the content into a portal, enters 12 metadata fields, and then when the content is translated, they can copy paste it back into their own system. I mean, that is automation between the localization department and the translation provider, but that is not automation for the marketeer. Or another example, which I think is actually the strangest. There's a big car producer that has 20,000 websites, and the only way to get content translated for them is to send a Word file. Because the only format the LSP understands is a Word file. I mean, that is not automation. That is not having the end user in mind. So, and within most enterprises, it is still the end user that has most budget, and that is still a key influencer. And of course, we are seeing this over and over again. So I would say there it can be a lot better. It can be a lot better. I think that 10 clicks is absolutely not easy at all. Easy, in my view, is zero. 0 clicks. Absolutely 0 clicks. That is easy because it is nowadays very easy to determine the automation rules, etc. So in my view, what is modern and what is a modern translation pipeline that starts at the marketeer? The roles between the marketeer and the localization department are basically as follows. The marketeer discusses with the localization department the translation requirements. The localization department sets up the automation rules as a one-click activity. Basically what this means is that based on content type or based on folder hierarchy, you determine when it needs to be automated and in which quality and in which languages and the required turnaround time. And then you just monitor if there is new content or that the existing content has changed. So you deploy the automation rules once and that's it. You don't need to do anything, or the marketeer doesn't need to do anything afterwards. If there's something changes, the marketeer would simply inform the localization department, and the localization department simply deploys a new automation rule. But it's all rule-based automation with 0 clicks. You deploy it once and you're done. Now, what does the localization department then do? They provide, of course, invisible translation for all their end clients, for all their end users within the organization. And they then take the project scheduling, the content automation, and they simply select the right provider based on content type, turnaround time, and quality requirements. And what they can do is they can try new innovations to optimize the process. And then the translation provider, of course, what happens in this scenario, they simply receive the content. And actually, this is a little bit of marketing then, because of the marketplace. Within the marketplace, you can actually offer your services at the marketplace, which then acts as an innovation, of course, for the localization department. And so this is where the localization department can basically browse for additional innovative services. And of course, for the translation providers, it offers the ability to offer this type of automation to their clients. So there's no need to develop your own connectors. You would simply offer the automation through the localization hub at your clients. I see quite some questions, and this was my last slide. So I would like to go to the questions.
Great, very good timing. Thank you, Rikkert.
You're welcome.
And thank you for providing real examples from your practice. It's very appreciated. And also for your enthusiasm in pushing this automation. It's helping all of us. There are a lot of work that we can focus on since these manual things are automated. So yeah, let's take a look at the question from Doug Stroke. It's a bit long message here, but it looks interesting. So would you like me to read this, or you see it by yourself?
No, I don't see it, but maybe I can try if I can see it as well, because I don't see it right now.
Okay, yeah, it's in chat.
Oh, I see it. Is it in okay, well, hold on, maybe I can see it.
Yeah, so let me know if you want me to read this, or you will read it yourself.
Oh yeah. Can you please explain the application of your product service for us in simple words? We usually receive requests from customers to translate an app WordPress e-commerce platform in different languages.
We've already answered that one. No, we've already answered that one.
Okay.
So here it is. Let me read it. At GLTAC, we have an API and are tightly integrated with Mamaku, but the clients struggle with their own internal processes that are barriers to true integration. Source content errors also prevent more automation. In a perfect world, yes, 0 clicks is an admirable goal. Always exceptions in automated processes that break the process. How does the platform handle that?
Yes, very, very good question. So the main thing from an architectural point of view between the current way connectors are working and the way we have developed the connectors is we have decoupled basically the actual connector from the translation technology. And so it is split. There's no direct connection between MemoQ and connectors. No, we have connectors, then we have middleware. That's where the content resides. That's where the content ends up. And then you have entry and access points to integrate with MemoQ or with any other custom solution that you have. And we have three ways to integrate your translation technology into the localization hub. So as a result of that, there is no problem that certain information needs to go to MemoQ or something like that. That is all possible because it is decoupled. So you have basically an entry point, and that entry point you connect with your MemoQ instance. That's the first part of the question. The second part of the question, how do you deal with exceptions? That's a very, very good question. The reason why connectors break, why custom connectors break, is because they're built as a one-off assignment. I have seen every connector that has been developed by, as I said, 40 LSPs. I can tell you, it's not software. It's custom code. It's custom code. It's not supposed to last. There's no automation in it. They built a connector in 5 days, 10 days, 15 days, 20 days, whatever. We built an application framework. And to be honest, there is one top player that has also the same quality connector. So it's not only us, but it's about how much emphasis as an LSP do you put on your connectors. If you think you can build it in like 10 days and you worry that it breaks afterwards, you already started on the wrong foot. We have 27 connectors. We have not built a connector under 1,300 hours. I would have wished we can do it faster, but any productized connector that we deploy takes 1,300 hours. Now, because it has taken 1,300 hours, we made the abstraction on the metadata level, which means that if there are exceptions handled, it is probably actually already taken care of because of the different layers of integration. So that is the technical answer. I hope it's not too technical, but it's just kind of business logic. If you build a TMS tool, you do not have the product capacity to spend 1,300 hours on a connector development. You simply do not have the time because you sell a TMS. You don't sell a connector. So when you have a connector, you simply send a consultant quickly to the client, deploy something, hack something together, put it on your website and say, I have a connector. And then you worry why it breaks two years later or 2 months later, or why it cannot handle the exception. Because of course it's not been designed like that. Now, so that's the technical part of the answer. And now on the functional side, how you deal with it, it is you do not assume you can automate everything. What you try to automate is that you try to automate as much as possible. But within the localization hub, you actually have access to all the systems anyway that are visible through a very easy to use interface. So if there's an exception needed, you simply navigate and select that content and send that for translation. So you cannot exclude exceptions. You just, what you have to do is you have to provide a framework that the localization department can quickly implement that exception in the same fashion.
Very detailed. Thank you very much. By the way, guys, we are recording the entire conference, so you will be able to listen to Rikkert answers carefully later. And we are going next. If you allow me, I have one small question from my side. Any plans to make a connector to Smartcat?
Yes, actually, it's already in the works.
Nice. So we can announce it.
It is already in the works, and yes, no, Smartcat is already in the works. It's a fantastic tool and will offer a lot more automation possibilities that were unseen before. I mean, I think that Smartcat will be probably one of the proof points of an ecosystem model. Because by combining Lockup with Smartcat, we can probably offer more automation that was seen now.
Rickard, thank you very much. Guys, it was not planned, so it's just the question came from my head. And thank you for this answer, Rickard. Let's
Yeah.
take a look at another question from David. What if the marketer works in Excel spreadsheets, Word docs, and not any CMS? Marketing department in my company loves preparing contents in Excel spreadsheets.
Yeah, that's fine. So we have actually all connectors as well to file storage systems like SharePoint or Dropbox or Box, or even network drive. So you can include it in that. It follows the same principle. It's just files and content that is stored somewhere. So as in the beginning of the webinar, there was a question like, what kind of content do you translate? And I said like, we're not the best in software applications. But it needs to be some kind of content repository where there is a structure around the content. So a content repository is a simple box folder or a network folder, or it can be a more complicated system like a content management system. For us, it is still kind of a file stored somewhere, either an HTML file, PDF file, Word file, Excel file, that needs to be retrieved and that needs to be sent for translation through an automated process.
Great. So, folks, any more questions to Rickard? A fascinating insight. Thank you. Came back. It might have been my okay. Some issues with the sound. Okay, David is saying thank you for the answer. Looks like, yeah, we are good. No questions so far. Then let's wrap up. Rickard, thank you very much for this insightful presentation and very good timing. We appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing you again, and stay tuned, and let's wait for the next attendees and speakers and panel discussions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you. Thank you.